Hi everybody, welcome back to another video for actually a new semester worth of classes. What do we call this class? Insurance Operations RMI 4292. I'm just going to be going over rate making one homework assignment because, it can be a little tricky and actually kind of tricked me up when I first was looking at it, but it's really simple math and I'm just going to walk you through it. So why don't I would make sure you download the Word document and then you can copy and paste the, what do you call this thing? The, uh, the loss record. And actually I would make a second one so that you could do the math for it. So do the same thing and I would put a little space between it and make a second one. And in the middle, you can have a chart that tracks the total loss development in the fifth year, or actually sixth year. But basically, when we zoom in, we have this chart, and go ahead and bold this section right here. And actually, can I shift click? No, I can't. Okay, so just go ahead and bold that so you know that this is where it ends. And basically what this means is we have these values in the sixth year. We know that this is the final value of how much the claim is going to be, but we don't have the data for all this. We don't have the data for all this. So, what you want to do is basically, and we'll actually change this part to 12 to 24 months. And then we can make this 24 to, what is it, 36? 24, 36. What's next? 36, 48. 48, 60, and 60, 72. You can see that we're gonna have this one as a blank. And then what you want to do is we need to come up with the averages, so you might as well add another line. We know that 2021, we can take 2021 out of this and we can make this the average because we don't have any data on this. So you can't get an average or you can't get a factor. And the factor is like a 1.00 something or 0.900 something, you know? And we don't have any data here to compare. So you can actually just remove this entire line and just based off these, you can get an average. So why don't we do that? How do we do that? Basically, we have this full line, and what you want to do is from 12 to 24 months. So equals, let's see, 12 to 24 months, you do the 24-month value divided by the 12-month value. And let's actually change this to a general number. And you get this, all right? And what you want to do is just drag it down. And how do you know if you got it by dragging it down, if it's correct? Well, let's check. We've gone 2019 data, and we're taking 24 divided by 12. And you can see C10 divided by B10. And that's correct. And so we have this full line. And how do we get the average? Just do average of these sets of numbers. And boom, close it. And also make sure that's not a dollar symbol. Change it to number. And you should, and honestly, I would, based off the PDF that we've been going off, I would make it 3 decimal points. 3 decimal points. So all you got to do is the same thing. I'll just show it once more here, and then I'll make a cut. But all you want to do for 24 to 36 is take the 36-month value divided by the 24-month value. And honestly, I should really change the whole thing to number format and actually change it all to one more decimal place. And then you just drag it down. And how do I know? And actually here, you're going to see a 0 here. Why is that? Because we have an empty gap here. You can't take 0 divided by something. You're just going to get 0. So, what does that mean? You just delete that because this is how much we can go up to. We don't have sufficient enough data, claims data, to pull from the 36 month. We don't have a 36 month here. So all we have is the 2019 36 month, but we don't have 2020. So you take the 2019 from 36 divided by the 24 in 2019, and you get that number. And then you just do an average equals average. And you can select this, or honestly, you could select this, doesn't matter. Close it, 0.988. If you wanted to check, hey, what if I just do this? It's going to still be 0.988 because Excel is smart enough to figure that out. So that's it. I'm going to make a cut. And as you can see, I've completed the numbers, and you don't need to worry about this column because there's nothing after 72. There is no 84 month value. So you just need to focus on the 72 divided by 60. And how do we get the average? If you're struggling with Excel, don't worry. All you got to do is hover your mouse over this corner. There's like a little dot and it turns black. So then you drag it all the way to the right, whichever column you want it to. We're going to do it to the 60 to 72. And you're going to have these numbers. If you want to check, did it do the averages correct? All you got to do is check the average, and it takes all these text boxes or all these cells and does it for you, and it is correct. If you wanted to check, why don't we do R8? The number remains the same. There's no difference. So now that we have this correct, and honestly, if you wanted to color code, you could. That's not the right one. I'm going to make it blue so that it's easier to read. And we can make this gray if you want. Gray. Now you know the averages. And look how it's the opposite. Or actually looks quite similar. You're kind of missing a box here, but that's how it's supposed to be. But look how it kind of aligns. Right here, it's a pyramid. Or a triangle, should I say. Just like this. Just like that. And so we're going to look, you're going to multiply these values. You just need to focus on these values to fill these boxes in. So what does that even mean? Well, we have the 72-month value that's missing in 2017. So we're going to take this value times that. So why don't we take equals this multiplied by 1.005. And would you look at that, we have a value. Now I've already done this, but let me check if I did it right. And if you wanted to match the other ones, all you got to do is reduce the decimal point, and you got 554660, and that's correct. Now, why don't we go ahead and do these? Why don't we start with 2021, because that's got the biggest gap. And if you can see here, we don't go to 2021. But since we were able to get the average for each individual year, we can apply that here. So why don't we do that? The 24-month value, all we got to do is take equals this value multiplied by 1.061. And you're going to see a big increase because there's an error. Because error is not bad, but you can see that it's above 1, so it's going to increase. And you can actually just drag this out. And we're going to reduce the decimal points. And you can see here that it matches 714 multiplied by 1.005. If you were to go further down one more, it would be 0 because we don't have a value here because we hit the 72-month mark. So we don't need to do that. Let me remove that. And you can see here that this is the estimated loss record that we're thinking that the actuary believes may happen. In the final year, he believes, or the actuary believes, that this may be the final payout in 2021. Why don't we continue with the rest of it? We take this multiplied by, let's see, 36-month value. So we look into the 36 column, 24 to 36 column, and we multiply it by that value. And you're going to see here, let me check my own work that I have off to the side. Oops, cancel. That we have 74,666,464. And we're going to reduce that. And then you can just drag it off to the side. How do we know that it's correct numbers? We see that the 72-month value in 2020 is this. Let's look at the math formula. It takes the previous number and multiplies it by a factor of 1.005, which means it's correct. Why don't we fill out the rest of the table? Take the previous number and multiply it by the 48-month value factor. How do we know it's 48? We look here at 48 and it starts at 48. So we're going to take this factor and multiply it, and we just drag it out. Whoops. 1 second. Oh, I apologize. I used the wrong number there. I actually forgot how to do it myself. But basically, all you got to do is take the previous number, like I said, this number multiplied, and you see 48 here. It needs to start with 48. And where does it start with 48? It starts, or sorry, end with 48. Boom. Drag it out. How do we know it's correct? It's because we take the previous number and it ends with 1.005. Let's not do that. Hold on. And if you want, drop the decimal places. Do the same thing. You have the previous number multiplied by, where are we at? 60. So we start with the 60 here. Boom. And honestly, it kind of trips me up too. Like, this is my first time doing this. And it takes some getting used to. But if you have these numbers, let me check if they're correct on my end. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, that is correct. If you want, one of the questions it asks is calculate the total development losses, or total developed losses. And all you got to do is take the accident year. How do I spell accident year? Let's see, accident year. And if you want, just copy and paste special and just do the values. And if you want to match Times New Roman, just for similarity's sake. And then why don't we just do a sum at the end? Sum. And just take these numbers. We get that. Let me just change it real quick to number. Change this to Times New Roman. And drop the decimals. And you should get, I don't like how it's not comma. Let me put a comma in there. We do currency. There we go. And remove this. There we go. We get the accident year. And if you want to just match it up with that, let's say, and make it simpler, you know? You can see that this is completely different. And we can change the, you can see that this is our total developed losses right here. So that's kind of how you do it. And then let's look at part 2, the second question. I had actually kind of forgotten about that section, but basically, you're going to see this question. Let me copy and paste it over. Come on, see right here. So explain why there are errors in loss development and why consistent under-reserving is considered a problem. There's also a part B. Let me bring that over. part B, and it says use the above information to calculate the loss development factors and total developed losses. And we've done that here, and we've done that here. So why don't we stick to 1A, explain why there are errors in loss development, and why consistent under-reserving is considered a problem. So when we talk about the word error, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, it just means that it's an estimate. The actuaries don't fully know because they don't have enough claims data. When you saw the original data, we were missing where all these bold highlighted numbers are. Everything to the right of it was completely empty because they didn't have enough data. And so it's considered an error because it's an estimate. We're using these factors, average factors, to make estimates of what the final value could be, the total developed losses. When it comes to the 72-month value, it could be that this is 800,000, a million. Maybe it's 600,000. Maybe it's 400,000. We could be completely way off, but we as actuaries believe, based off the averages, that this is what it could be. It's never going to be, like Dr. Dunn said, it's never going to be these exact numbers. If it is, that's a 1 in a billion chance. But the full 72-month value should be very close to these numbers. Maybe it's 750,000. Maybe it's 630,000, but it's close. So why are there errors in loss development? Because it's an assumption, it's an estimate. And why consistent under reserving is considered a problem? Well, these losses develop over, in this case, 6 years. So the legal outcome is going to change. It's the severity might change, and really the big thing is whatever that line of business this claim is in, the loss might change. So consistent under reserving. So what does that mean? Basically, that we put in the liability section that we believe that we're gonna have $2 million worth of losses that we're going to have to pay out. But in reality, the actual developed losses, it's going to be 3.7 million. So we're under reserving by 1.7 million. That's a lot. And consistent under reserving is basically inflating the policyholder surplus. If you look at a balance sheet, we have assets equals liabilities plus policyholder surplus, basically your equity. And if the liability section goes down and assets remain the same, that means it needs to balance somewhere. And that means the policyholder surplus is going to go up. But that's not what the insurer is actually showing. The what do they call it? The SAAP or the SAP? I think it's just SAP. The guidelines for insurance, the accounting guidelines, they look for solvency, not profitability. So the what do you call that? Policyholder surplus is going to artificially inflate, and basically the insurer's liability will look smaller, and if the reserves are lower than required, then the loss data used for pricing will also be low. What does that even mean? That means the insurer is undercharging for premiums, their profitability declines, or it might just go negative. Remember, if we are claiming that our total developed losses is 2 million, but in reality it's 3.7 million, that means that we're going to use this 2 million data number that we are under reserving to calculate next year's premium, next year's anything, gross rate, the pure premium. The loading is going to be so much higher to make that profit rather than changing the pure premium. So if we correctly charge premium, if we correctly reserve, that means we're going to have much more accurate data for the next year when we charge premiums compared to if we did the 2 million where we're undercharging, so we're behind on premiums, And that means, sure, the consumer is going to look at it and be like, wow, this price is so much cheaper. I'm going to go with this insurer. But in reality, the insurance company is not going to be able to pay out claims because they don't have the money coming in to pay those out. So it's considered a problem because you're changing how your premiums are going to be too low, your profitability is going to decline, and you're also inflating your policyholder surplus. You're making your investments look like they're out of the out so crazy high that it's not real. And the SAP guidelines is all about showing the facts, making sure you're not going bankrupt, and you're lying. Ultimately, you're lying by under reserving consistently. 1B, it's basically what we did in the problem, filling out the graph, coming up with this total developed losses, and then the factors. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed or understood this assignment. I'm thinking about making the part two, but if you have any questions, just type in the comments and I'm sure I'll get a notification for it. Or we have the group chat. So if you got any questions, just be sure to contact me. All right. Have a good one.